Hello dear friends, I am Dr. N.K. Pawar. Now today we are going to talk about SYBSc semester 2nd physics paper heat and thermodynamics. Today we are going to talk about the chapter 3rd, that is heat transfer mechanism. So friends, before starting, let us have brief overview. So see, in previous chapter what we saw about the heat and thermodynamics. So basic concept, we know that system is any portion of universe or matter chosen for thermodynamic consideration is called system. Second, anything outside the system or everything outside the system is called as a surrounding, and system and surrounding is basically separated by the boundary. It is the portion that separates system and surrounding that we know. So let us consider this is a cylinder. Let us consider it is a system consists of gas. So here cylinder contains a gas, it is a system. Everything outside the cylinder, it is acting as a surrounding. And here the red portion which is shown, or walls of this particular container, they are acting as the boundary. Important thing is that the boundary can be a conducting one or non-conducting. So here, depending on the nature of the boundary, both mass and energy are present in system and surrounding. Question is whether they are exchanged between system and surrounding or not, on which the type of system depend, that we know. See, in case of open system, both mass and energy are exchanged between system and surrounding. So see, here it is, this is system, this is surrounding. So here in this case the mass can be exchanged, that means from system to environment or environment to system, mass can be exchanged. Similarly, the energy can be transferred from system to surrounding or surrounding to system. So that kind of system is called as an open system. Second, we know that closed system, that only energy is exchanged between system and surrounding. Remember that no mass is exchanged. So here this is surrounding, and in that case only energy can be transferred from surrounding to system or system to surrounding. That kind of system is called as a closed system. And remember, in closed system no matter is exchanged. And third one is isolated system, neither mass nor energy are exchanged. Now according to this, we saw that is thermodynamic state. It is a state of system, means particular condition of system described by measurable quantities. And as far as we know, heat and thermodynamics is concerned, we are studying the quantities like pressure, volume, temperature, entropy, etc. So equation of state, that is interdependent thermodynamic parameters like pressure, volume and temperature define the thermodynamic state of system, and state of homogeneous system can be known by knowing any two parameters. So see, here three parameters are there, P, V and T. If any two of them are known, we can find out the third parameter. They are interdependent. That is important thing. And obviously then equation of state is F of P V T is equal to 0. So it is for 1 mole of ideal gas. We have PV is equal to RT. So since N is equal to 1, so remember that the basic equation is PV is equal to nRT. So here what we observe is one system. Let us consider this is a cylinder and this is a piston, and here I have shown a thermometer. So here in this, let us consider parameters of the system. So that is, it has certain volume. Let us consider the volume is V1, in which the gas is enclosed. So now let us consider a piston is here, and amount of gas, maybe it is 1 mole, 2 mole, 3 mole, it will decide the pressure inside the cylinder. Larger the mass of the gas, larger the pressure will be there. So here, and initially the temperature is T1. So in this system we are considering initial volume is V1, pressure is P1 and temperature is T1. Now when force is applied, external force, and when gas is compressed, so now we see that volume is changed. So that means volume V1 is now turned to V2, pressure P1 is now turned to P2, and we see that the temperature is increased. See, here it is, the temperature is increasing. So that means when gas is compressed, we observe that there is a rise in temperature, and here as the same amount of gas is now compressed in a small volume, so obviously pressure 2 is greater than pressure 1. Similarly, now volume 1 is less than volume 2. Initially volume was larger, and here temperature T2 is greater than T1. So all these three things are important for understanding the thermodynamics. So here we have relation PV is equal to nRT, where R is Rydberg's constant and N is number of moles of the gas. So now when the states are changing, so some kind of processes are actually taking place. So here in thermodynamics we saw that is a isothermal change. So it is the change in which temperature during the change remains constant. So see, here it is a temperature, and if either pressure, volume, other parameters are changing, but though they are changing, temperature remains constant, that kind of process or change is called as a isothermal change. And in PV is equal to nRT, the temperature T is constant, so simply pressure is proportional to 1 upon V, or pressure is inversely proportional to V. So as pressure increases, volume decreases. So see, here it is, volume is V1, pressure is P1 and temperature is T1. The moment we apply pressure, here we see that in case of isothermal change, the temperature is not changed. So remember that in spite the volume is decreased, that means gas is compressed, so naturally temperature should have been increased. But here as we don't get the change in temperature, that means some amount of heat is given to the surrounding and the temperature is maintained. That you should remember. So in case of isothermal changes, the heat is given outside or taken in, that is important. So obviously then in final state we have P2 is greater than P1, V2 is less than V1 and temperature T1 is constant. This is isothermal change. So here in case of isothermal change, that is dT, change in temperature is 0. So let us consider the plot. Here it is, initial pressure is P1, initial volume is V1. So now here initial state is P1, V1. So then as gas is compressed, you see that volume is decreasing, the volume is increasing. Here instead of compression we are talking about expansion, isothermal expansion, in which we observe that as the volume increases, here it is from this to this, pressure is decreasing. So change in P and V at constant temperature, this is isothermal expansion. So here it is expansion, so volume is increasing. So this is the isothermal process in which dT is equal to 0. So now let us talk about adiabatic change. Now as in isothermal change we saw dT is 0, and in order to maintain temperature during the change, either heat is given outside or taken in. But now here it is in adiabatic change, remember that, in which no exchange of heat between system and surrounding. So no heat is either taken in or given out, So now in PV is equal to nRT, as pressure increases, volume decreases. So here in case of adiabatic change, initial P1 V1 and temperature T1. So now when adiabatic change is observed, you see that the temperature is increasing, okay, as well as in reverse case it is decreasing. So this is adiabatic change, in which you see that dq is equal to 0, that means no heat is exchanged. So here it is, first we saw isothermal expansion and we got the state P2 V2. Now we talk about adiabatic. So here it is another curve, adiabatic, in which remember that dq is equal to 0. In this case dt is equal to 0. This is isothermal and this is adiabatic. So now here this is isothermal expansion, this is adiabatic expansion. These are the curves. Now note, slope of adiabatic is gamma times greater than slope of isothermal. We already saw and studied these things, but here you can observe that the slope of adiabatic is greater than isothermal. So this is slope of adiabatic at this particular point, tangent is drawn. Similarly, if you observe the slope to this curve at this particular point, the tangent is drawn, and here you can easily see that the slope of this adiabatic curve is greater than slope of isothermal curve. And remember that the relation is that slope of adiabatic is gamma times, and we know that gamma is nothing but Cp upon Cv, that is specific heat at constant pressure and specific heat at constant volume. For solving the problems, you must know the things. Now we know that heat flows from hot body at higher temperature to a body at lower temperature. So we already saw law of thermodynamics, and in which we know that heat flows from body at higher temperature to a body at lower temperature. Now we are going to see internal combustion engines, refrigerator and air conditioners. In this chapter we are going to study it. So here what the concepts are there and what are their working principle, that we are going to see. In internal combustion engine, note that the combustion of fuel and an oxidizer, normally it is air, in confined space is called as a combustion chamber. So that we are going to see. So now we are talking about heat engine. Now what exactly the heat engine? And heat engine is device that transforms heat partly into work and mechanical energy. So it is partly converting heat into mechanical energy. In fact, we expect that 100% of heat energy should be converted into work, but practically it is very difficult and it is not achievable also. So that you should remember that heat engine that converts heat into work or mechanical energy. Now how it is done? See, in internal combustion engine, combustion of fuel and an oxidizer in confined space called combustion chamber, and actually with the help of this that can be done. So similarly, apart from this, we are going to see auto engine, diesel engine also. So here in heat engine, as we saw the property that heat by itself flows from a body at higher temperature to a body at lower temperature. Let us consider the example, that is steam engine. Now here it is, in steam engine we know that the coal is used, it is burned and it produces the heat. Actually it is a source of heat, but now that heat is converted into work with the help of working substance, and for that the working substance is needed. So obviously using this heat energy from the source, that heat is absorbed by the water and converted into steam. Now once it is converted into steam, that means its volume increases and it can able to give pressure on the piston. So that means steam is actually a working substance, and this steam takes heat from the source of heat, that is a burning coal, and finally that heat is finally transferred to the atmosphere. So atmosphere is at lower temperature, that you know, and we know that heat by itself flows from higher temperature to lower temperature. So through the working system, heat engine can perform the work. Now we know that efficiency of steam engine is very low. Now we are going to see. So here then came into existence the concept given by Carnot's, and that is a Carnot's heat engine. So basically, as it is realized that practically 100% of heat in efficiency of energy is not possible practically. That is one important thing. Now French scientist Sadi Carnot conceived one engine with the concept of efficiency study. So here it is, see, one important thing, one, efficiency of practical steam engine is very low. That is first thing. Second thing, Sadi Carnot conceived a theoretical engine. So you should remember that Carnot engine is not a practical engine. It is a theoretical concept, and it is completely free from all defects in a practical engine. So that is a theoretical engine study. Now Carnot engine being an ideal reversible engine. So important thing is that Carnot's engine is a theoretical engine. It is free from all defects, and second one, it is ideal reversible engine, cannot be actually realized in actual practice. So this kind of engine cannot be exist, because of ideal reversible engine means its initial state and final states are same, and in thermodynamics, as far as heat transfer is concerned, this is impossible. So its efficiency is maximum and depends only on working temperature. So while studying Carnot's heat engine, its design and study, so it gives maximum efficiency, and the efficiency depends only on working temperature. That is a very important part of Carnot's heat engine. See, it gives the estimate of maximum possible efficiency. So whenever we use or we study particular heat engine, then what is the maximum possible efficiency in case of that converting heat energy into work, that a heat engine during conversion process of heat to work and conversely working between two reservoirs can possess. So these estimations can be studied by Carnot heat engine. The Carnot's heat engine consists of 4 parts. So first part is that what we see is cylinder. Actually, in this cylinder, we are considering a specific particular volume in which the 1 mole of perfect gas will be placed, and heat will be given to this cylinder or taken out. That means adiabatic expansion, isothermal expansion, compression, adiabatic expansion, compression, all these things will be performed using this cylinder. So it contains 1 mole of perfect gas. That is first thing. Second, here working substance is inside this chamber. That means that 1 mole of perfect gas is placed inside this chamber. These are the walls of this cylinder, and this is a piston. So now here the piston is frictionless piston. That means whenever it moves up and down, no friction is taking place, no heat is generated. All those things are considered. So when piston moves to and fro. There is no friction and it does not generate any kind of heat due to friction. So this is piston, which is a part of cylinder. The material of the side walls and piston are perfectly insulated. Means, say these are the walls of cylinder and this is a piston. So this material is perfectly insulated. That means no heat can be given out from the walls or piston material, or no heat can be taken in from the side walls or piston. That is the concept of cylinder. So here it is a perfect insulator, that is side walls of the container and piston material. And important thing is that the base, which is shown by black shade, it is the base of cylinder, but it is perfect conductor. That means heat can be taken inside or given outside through this base. So that is a perfect conductor. So this is a first important part of Carnot's engine. So now let's talk about the second part of engine is source of heat. So here you see, we saw this is the cylinder in which the working substance is placed. Now this is source of heat. Now here this is a source of heat in which you see that this wall is conducting and other walls are non-conducting. So here source of heat maintained at temperature T1. So if this is a heat source, it is maintained at temperature T1 permanently. Second important thing is that it has infinite thermal capacity. That means if we put this system on this, so then it can give the heat to this system. So let us consider this is our system with piston, and it can give heat when these two layers come in contact. When we put this here, it can give infinite amount of heat, but still its temperature T1 always remains constant. So that is called as it has infinite thermal capacity. Second, heat can be drawn from it without a change in its temperature. So whatever amount of heat is given out by this heat source, its temperature never changes. So that is a second part. Now the third part of Carnot engine is sink. So another, this is the sink, which is ideal absorber of the heat, which is maintained at temperature T2. But remember that temperature T2 is less than temperature T1 because of, we know that it is a natural law that heat is transferred from higher temperature to lower temperature. So heat is given from the source which is at higher temperature, and sink is maintained at lower temperature, such that when we keep this cylinder on the sink, it can absorb heat. So again here sink is nothing but a cold body maintained at temperature T2. Remember, T2 is less than T1. It has infinite thermal capacity. That means whatever amount of heat it absorbs, its temperature T2 remains constant. That is, any amount of heat can be given to sink without change in its temperature. So temperature T2 is always constant, whatever amount of heat is absorbed by it. So that is, it has infinite thermal capacity. And fourth one is insulated or insulating stand. So this is shown here, it is insulating stand. So that means whenever we put this cylinder on insulating stand, along with these walls, we saw these walls are perfectly insulators, even piston is perfectly insulated, and the moment it is put on this insulating stand, that this is also insulating, so no heat can go out. So in first step, remember that when this cylinder is kept here, heat energy will be given to this and it will be brought to temperature T1. Second thing, when we put this cylinder on this insulating stand, no heat is given out from this cylinder or system, or no heat is taken inside the system. That means heat inside the system remains constant. That means dq is equal to 0 if it is kept here. And third thing is that when we put this system on this sink, this is source, this is sink. Remember that whenever system is kept here, its temperature is T1, which is higher, but when it is shifted here, from higher temperature T1, heat is transferred to sink T2. T2 is at lower temperature. So these are the mechanism and parts. So here it is, insulating stand, it is a perfect insulator, and when cylinder is placed on it, the gas can undergo adiabatic expansion and compression. So when here the system is kept here, the isothermal change is observed. Again system is kept here, the isothermal change is observed. But whenever system is kept on insulating stand, the change is adiabatic, that you remember. So now we are going to talk about Carnot cycle. That means the operations, how actually they are happening in Carnot heat engine, that we are going to see. So first important that Carnot cycle, it provides upper limit of efficiency that classical thermodynamics can achieve during the conversion of heat into work. And second important thing that it is not actual thermodynamic cycle, but it is theoretical construct, that you remember. It is not in actual practice. Now it consists of 4 operations. So see, remember that when we are going to study this Carnot cycle, here it is a volume and here it is pressure. So initially what we are going to do is that we are going to keep this system on heat source, and obviously the temperature, heat will be transferred from source to system and its temperature will increase. So when it attains temperature T1, it has particular pressure and volume. So that point we are going to consider first point, that is SC1, where temperature, pressure will be P1, volume will be V1 and temperature will be T1. That is first point C1. And once it attains this, then this is initial condition. So later on we are going to see the isothermal, which takes it from C1 to C2. Then another curve, that is a adiabatic, which takes from C2 to C3. Again isothermal, which takes it from C3 to C4. And again see, this is isothermal, this is adiabatic, this changes isothermal, and this is again adiabatic. So remember that, in short you can see that initial state is P1, V1, T1, then how it is shifted to C2 isothermally, then from C2 to C3 adiabatically, then C3 to C4 isothermally, and C3 to C1 adiabatically, that we are going to see. But remember that during C1 to C2 the volume is increasing, that is the expansion. Again C2 to C3 volume is increasing, that is again expansion, and thereafter C3 to C4 volume is decreasing, that is compression, and again C4 to C1, that is again compression. And important thing, it is called as a cycle because of it starts from C1 where pressure is P1, V1 and T1, then it shifts to P2, V2, T1, then here P3, V3, T2, then here it is P4, V4, T2, and finally again it reaches back. So that is why it is called as a cycle. Now we are going to see these 4 steps in detail. That is, first one is reversible isothermal gas expansion. It is from C1 to C2. So see here, in case of first isothermal expansion, that is a reversible isothermal expansion, first important thing is that the cylinder is kept on the heat source, and obviously the temperature is increased. So we have got initially the pressure P1, V1 and temperature attained T1. So see, now here it is, as initial state is P1, V1 and T1, and this point is, we know that is C1. So internal pressure so adjusted that piston moves outward slowly. So here remember that as the gas is inside and temperature increases, it attains P1, V1, T1, then the pressure external adjusted. See here we have to see the expansion. So expansion, for expansion the internal pressure must be greater than external pressure. So external pressure is adjusted such that piston moves outward slowly and working substance undergoes expansion, and obviously the state C2, that is having pressure P2, V3 is attained. So here it is P1, V1, and once the pressure outside is maintained such that very slowly piston moves in upward direction and volume increases, but it is isothermal. The piston is moved so slowly that because of expansion, as the temperature decreases, but at the same time the heat is given from this source to cylinder and temperature is maintained, and that is why it is called as a isothermal. So here it is the curve in which we know that isothermal curve and temperature is maintained. So this is isothermal expansion, note that. So now we saw initial state was P1, V1, T1, but it is isothermal. So we got P2, V2, but still temperature is as it is T1. So this is isothermal change. Now we are talking about reversible adiabatic expansion. So see, as isothermal there is no change. Amount of heat absorbed Q1. So at this stage, remember that when amount of heat absorbed Q1 is totally utilized to do the work, and therefore work done from C1 to C2. See here it is, when it is moved from C1 to C2, the total work done W is equal to P dV, integration of from V1 to V2, and therefore we have Q1 is equal to W1 is equal to RT1 log of V2 upon V1. So remember that this is the heat actually taken by the system during this time or this cycle. So heat amount of heat Q1 is taken by cylinder, and so that we got this cycle. So Q1 is amount of heat taken in. Now let us talk about second step, that is adiabatic expansion. So during adiabatic expansion, so adiabatic means no exchange of heat. Okay, so therefore now instead of heat source, the cylinder which was at pressure P2, V2 and temperature T1, it is now kept on insulating stand. We know that as stand is insulating and all side walls and pistons are insulating, so no heat is taken in or given out. That means simply dq is equal to 0. Okay, so no heat enters or leaves the system. The temperature of gas must fall to T2 from T1. So here you see that the pressure changes from P2 to P3 and volume changes from V1 to V3. But here important thing is that it is a adiabatic expansion, that is no heat is taken in or given out, and so temperature due to expansion temperature falls and now temperature attained is T2. So temperature falls to T2. This is second thing. Now state C2, now here it is, this state is attained, state C3 is attained, that is here it is P3, V3 and T2 is attained. Now this is adiabatic change, and we know that work done in case of adiabatic change, W, is an integration of V2 to V3, that is P dV, and we know that in adiabatic case PV raised to gamma is equal to constant, that we already saw, and from that we can see that the work done during this process is W2 is equal to R T1 minus T2 divided by gamma minus 1. So here we got W1 and here we got W2. Now we are talking about the third phase, that is reversible isothermal compression. Now from here to here, there it is a compression because of volume will decrease, and second it is isothermal. Isothermal means temperature will remain constant, and in order to remain temperature constant, heat must be exchanged. So that is why here the cylinder is kept on the sink, and as these two layers are perfectly conducting, so heat can transfer from this to this, and here it is a compression, so the pressure outside the piston is so maintained that it is slowly compressing the gas. So here it is isothermal compression. So heat produced during compression is given to the sink and temperature remains same, that is T2. So here it is, we know that C3 is equal to P3 V3 T2, but now it is C1, C2, C3 and this is point C4. So state C4 is now P4, V4 and T2. So now heat rejected by the gas Q2. So remember that we saw in first step the heat gain was Q1. So during all this process, during first isothermal, the heat gained by system was Q1, and now heat given out is now Q2. So heat rejected by the gas Q2. Now here it is work done, W3 is equal to R T2 log of V4 upon V3, as this is a isothermal compression. Since we know that volume V4 is less than V3, so we can write W3 is equal to minus RT log of V3 upon V4. This is expression 3 during this isothermal compression. So this is isothermal compression in which volume decreases and pressure increases, and now the state attained is P4 V4, but as it is isothermal, so the temperature at this point was T2, still the temperature at this point is T2. So here we know that temperature was T1, here it was T1. So this is isothermal in which temperature remains constant. This is another isothermal in which temperature remains constant. Remember that temperature change is observed during adiabatic. And now we are going to see last cycle. So during this we get W3 is equal to minus RT log of V3 upon V4, and remember that during this process the heat entered the system is Q1 and now heat rejected is Q2. Fourth one is reversible adiabatic compression. So here W3 is equal to minus RT ln V3 upon V4. Negative sign indicates that work is done on the gas. Now we talk about step 4. So here it is, in case of step 4, that is reversible adiabatic compression. So for adiabatic, again no heat is given out or taken in, so cylinder is kept on insulating stand, so no heat exchange is possible. So adiabatic compression, during compression no heat is absorbed or rejected, and temperature rises from T2 to T1. So here we see that as volume is decreasing and pressure is increasing, but heat rejection is not possible, so obviously temperature changes from T2 to T1. So work done during the adiabatic compression, as usual, W4 is equal to R T2 minus T1 upon gamma minus 1. But remember that T2 is less than T1, so we can write, here it is, W4 is equal to minus R T1 minus T2 upon gamma minus 1, here it is minus, and that is expression 4. So now we have got so this is the fourth adiabatic compression. And now remember that the cycle is complete. So what is Carnot cycle? Initially the state was P1 V1 at temperature T1. So after isothermal expansion we got P2 V2, but temperature T1 as it is, since it is isothermal. Therefore from P2 V2 T1 it changed to P3 V3 T2, since the change was adiabatic expansion. Then third one, from P3 V3 T2 we got adiabatic isothermal compression, and we attain P4 V4 T2. The temperature was constant, that is isothermal compression. And the last one is again the system goes to its original state and the cycle is complete. So that is called as a Carnot cycle. So here it is, negative sign indicates that work is done on the gas. Now the cycle C1, C2, C3, C4 is called as a Carnot cycle. So here it is C1, C2, C3, C4, and again it goes to C1. So this cycle is called as a Carnot cycle. Now the fourth operation from here to here takes the gas to its initial state, and thus we can say the cycle is complete. Now we are talking about efficiency of heat engine. Now when we talk about efficiency of heat engine, it is work obtained divided by energy supplied, and we saw that when the system was kept on sink, this is system and this is heat source, then the amount of heat taken by the system was Q1. Now efficiency is equal to work obtained by energy supplied. The supplied energy was Q1. Now let us see how much net work is done by the system. So here efficiency is equal to W upon Q1. So net heat absorbed in a cycle, we saw that the amount of heat absorbed was Q1 and rejected was Q2. So obviously the net heat in the system was Q1 minus Q2. But for cyclic process, change in internal energy is 0, because of after completion of cycle we saw that is P1, V1 and T1, that is initial parameters were maintained. So change in internal is equal to 0 in a cycle. So according to first law of theory, work done is equal to net heat absorbed. So therefore work done W must be equivalent or is equal to Q1 minus Q2. But here, as efficiency is equal to W upon Q1, but we know that work is equal to Q1 minus Q2, so we get Q1 minus Q2 upon Q1. So here, for solving the problems related to heat, remember this is very important formula, that efficiency can be calculated with the help of knowing Q1 and Q2, or efficiency eta is equal to 1 minus Q2 upon Q1. So this is expression 6, which gives efficiency in terms of heat. So total work done, as we saw, W1, W2, W3 and W4. So total work done W is equal to, we saw W1 in equation 1, that is RT1 log of V2 upon V1 plus W2 plus W3, it was minus, and W4, that is heat given, work done by the system or work done on the system decides whether this work done is positive or negative. So here we see that this quantity and this quantity gets cancelled. So work done W is equal to RT1 upon V2 upon V1 minus RT2 into V3 upon V4. So now substituting equation 1 and 3 in equation 5, so we get, see here it is, as W is equal to RT1 log of V2 upon V1 minus RT2 log of V3 upon V4. Using this expression, we can write, see, efficiency is equal to W upon Q, but we got W is equal to this. So this value of W divided by Q1, that is RT1 log of V2 upon V1. But we know for adiabatic change, TV raised to gamma minus 1 is constant. So when change is adiabatic. So applying this for adiabatic curves, so we have two curves, that is C2 and C3 that we saw, which are adiabatic. We get T1 V2 raised to gamma minus 1 is equal to T2 V3 raised to gamma minus 1. And similarly for other adiabatic, curves C1 C4, we have T1 V1 raised to gamma minus 1 is equal to T2 V4 raised to gamma minus 1. So dividing equations 7 and 8, we get the relation, that is V2 upon V1 is equal to V3 upon V4. Now we saw that efficiency eta is equal to W upon Q1, but from this we can see that it is nothing but T1 minus T2 upon T1, upon cancelling the similar term. So here it is T1 minus T2. So this is again, remember that this is again relation for efficiency in terms of temperature, that is eta is equal to T1 minus T2 upon T1. So that is equal to 1 minus T2 upon T1. So from equation 6, if we have, see, we know that efficiency is equal to Q1 minus Q2 upon Q1 that we saw, and here efficiency is equal to T1 minus T2. Equating these two, we get relation, that is Q1 upon T1 is equal to Q2 upon T2. So remember that this is efficiency, but here you observe that T2 is less than T1. So here it is T2 is less than T1. So from this, if we can see that efficiency is always less than 1. So we cannot get 100% efficiency because of, see, here it is, let us consider T1 is equal to 100. T1 is equal to 100. But T2 is less than T1. So suppose it is 50. So 100 minus 50 turns to 50 divided by 100. So obviously efficiency is always less than 1, that you remember. So we find that in Carnot's engine, efficiency depends upon the temperature of the substance and source and sink only. So here it is, efficiency we saw eta is equal to T1 minus T2 upon T1. So what is the temperature of sink and what is the temperature of source? Only those things decides the efficiency. It does not depend on the nature of the working substance. And second important thing is efficiency is 100% if either T1 is infinite or T2 is 0. So if we want efficiency eta, that is equal to T1 minus T2 upon T1. So if we want it infinite, then here if T1 is infinite, then we can get the efficiency 100%, or T2 should be 0. So once T2 is 0, that means T1 upon T1, that is equal to 1, that is 100% efficiency. But practically attaining T1 at infinite temperature is impossible, and T2 at 0, this is not practically realizable. So which is not practically realizable. So efficiency of heat engine is always less than 100%. That is the conclusion of this Carnot cycle. So this is a concept of Carnot heat engine and Carnot cycle. Now see, let us consider a problem. See, find efficiency of Carnot's heat engine working between steam point and ice point. So we have given steam point and ice point. We know that efficiency is equal to T1 minus T2 upon T1. So steam point means 100 degrees Celsius. We converted it into Kelvin. So 100 plus 273 is equal to 373 Kelvin. And another point is ice point, that is a 0 degree Celsius, T2, converted again into Kelvin. And now putting the values of T1, T2, we see that 373 minus 273 divided by 373, we got this multiplied by 100. So we got the efficiency of Carnot heat engine is 26.8%. So this way we can calculate the efficiency. Remember that as efficiency eta is equal to T1 minus T2 upon T2. Another formula is there also when heat is given, that is Q1 minus Q2 upon Q1. So let us consider another problem. A reversible heat engine working between 273 Kelvin and 373 Kelvin. It absorbs 700 joule of heat from source, that is a Q1. So calculate work done. Second, heat engine, heat given to the sink. And third one, what would have been the efficiency if the temperature of the source were 500 Kelvin. So given things are there working between, these temperatures are given and heat absorb is given. So now when we talk about work done, see, one thing is that efficiency eta is equal to W upon Q1, and that is equal to, we know, T1 minus T2 upon T1. So temperature T1 and T2 are given. So putting the values, that is 373 minus 273 divided by 373. Remember that T2 is always less than T1 into amount of heat, that is 700, and so work done W is equal to 187.66 joule. Now second thing is that heat given to the sink. Now heat given to sink is actually heat absorbed minus heat used to work. So we know that this is the amount of heat utilized for work done, and the input heat was 700. So heat absorbed is 700 and heat used for work is 187. So heat given to the sink is 572.34 joule. And now the efficiency, third point is that what would have been the efficiency if the temperature of the source were 500. So obviously temperature of source means T1 is 500, but T2 is already given in problem 273. So 500 minus 273 divided by 500 is equal to 0.454. So efficiency would be 45.4%. So this way we can solve this problem. Okay, thank you very much.